Hello guys, and I'm happy to tell you that this week might have been one of the most explosive for the Russian Federation. And no, I am not talking about New Year fireworks, but about the hard-working Ukrainian drones that neutralized a serious number of legitimate military objects inside the Russian Federation. First of all, Ukrainian drones paid a number of visits to the capital of Chechnya, once independent republic, then violently returned under the Kremlin, but with a good potential to become independent in the future again. Ukrainian drones neutralized military training grounds there and a base of special police forces of Kadyrov. Minus 40 full cars of mazout, black oil, and a locomotive, but most importantly a railroad, destroyed on the territories of the temporarily occupied Zaporizhia region. It's obvious Russian army planned to use it as fuel for their military machines, but no, plans failed, and all because of Ukrainian drones and potentially HIMARS strikes. Minus 2 Russian tankers in the Black Sea. They were destroyed by nature, according to the Russian telegram channels. Well, nature does not like invaders. But this all happened in, let's say, like 24 hours. And during the week, we had more of the Russian geography lessons based on the destructions of military objects in Taganrog, in Bryansk, in Oryol, in Kursk, near Kerch Strait, which is important. And Russia had to flee Syria, one of the most important events of the recent decade. They've lost control not just over military bases there, but literally opened way to new pipelines that will ruin collapsing Russian economy. And North Korean soldiers are not doing well on the front lines. Not only they get neutralized really quickly, but they also neutralize Russian soldiers. Something went wrong. So let's discuss all of these important highlights while some of the Russian objects are still on fire. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of Russia and also protect yourself against their evil narratives and hybrid warfare, subscribe. We discuss all of that on the channel. And let's start with these visits of Ukrainian drones to the capital of Chechnya. It happened twice during the week. The air defense didn't manage to work. Kadyrov was super angry and perhaps his blood pressure was really high, but who cares? Most importantly, it's not just symbolic, it is also a destruction of their military training grounds. And many soldiers are trained in Chechnya. You know that Kadyrov army is sometimes called the TikTok army because they don't fight, they typically escape from their positions, as we saw that in Kursk. They were responsible for the control of the border but failed, and often they are used as a police for the Russian soldiers. So nobody likes them, but Chechnya is another important symbolic reminder why it's so important to defeat Russia in Ukraine. Because at the beginning of 90s, the people of Chechnya, many of whom are very strong, brave and proud, managed to defeat Russia and proclaim independence. And it is only in 1999, when Putin came to power, with extreme violence, they managed to put Chechnya under the Kremlin again, and together with that, Kadyrov clan became the so-called leaders of this country. And right now, Russia uses as a training ground, as a construction ground, same as Tatarstan, and we do not have a right for something similar to happen on the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, let's say. This is why it's important to retain every meter, every inch of Ukrainian territory as of 1991 borders. And we are working on that, especially in Zaporizhia, on the temporarily controlled part of this region by Russia. A serious explosion happened, and all because Ukrainian drones neutralized a locomotive. And 4 cars, tanks of oil went ablaze. But I want to describe this operation because it was truly beautiful and well planned. First of all, it started with the destroyed railroad, and the locomotive had to stop. When it stopped, Ukrainian drones started working on it and set on fire lots of tanks within that locomotive. And the workers on the railroad, Russian army representatives, wanted to somehow restructure the locomotive and escape. And that was the moment when a HIMARS came. I think it's beautiful and worth a separate film in future. And important results: lots of Russian fuel destroyed, and thus Russian troops paralyzed on the front lines in Zaporizhia region, and a severe destruction for the railroad that paralyzes Russian army logistics in that region. Subscribe to celebrate this demilitarization of Russia. Please share these videos on your social media platforms, that's important. And like it if you like it as I do, because I always like to discover more about Russian demilitarizations, denazifications. That's important for the future safety and security in the world. Weird things are happening in the Black Sea. You know that we were successful to destroy the majority of the Russian Black Sea fleet. Then its remains escaped to the Novosibirsk port, which is on the Russian side, and that's exactly where they belong. But they keep sinking in the waters of the Black Sea because the Black Sea doesn't like Russian vessels. And 2 tankers broke and sank. This was Volgoneft 212 and Volgoneft 239. What is bad? 4,000 liters of oil got into water. And this is another reminder that Russia is a disaster, not just for the Ukrainian people, not just for the political democratic countries, but for our ecology. And this is a moment when we have to think about their shadow fleet that is literally everywhere, in every sea, next to your shores, next to your beaches. And it's dangerous because Russia never cared for ecology. They literally don't care about human lives. You see the sizes of Russian losses, and they don't care about life of their own citizens. So how do you expect them to care for, I don't know, fish or birds or penguins or people of other countries? And that is another reason why we need to be so active addressing our politicians, decision makers, activists to prosecute Russian shadow fleet that not only helps Russia avoid sanctions and somehow survive, but also is dangerous for the planet in general. Please remember about that. But talking about Russian losses, they've decided to add North Korean losses to Russian losses. And according to the reports from Ukrainian soldiers, it may be that for the first time in the course of this war, they were already fighting inside Ukraine, which is a very evil precedent. And I hope that serious reaction will follow, because right now it's official. Ukraine is fighting not just with Russia, but also with North Korea. Okay, these North Korean soldiers are not demonstrating high-quality combat operations. There are photos and videos that YouTube will never allow, and you can guess why, because they are neutralized at high speed and in large quantities. But what was also interesting, in one of the combat operations, something went wrong and North Korean soldiers neutralized lots of Kadyrov soldiers, Chechen soldiers. Perhaps something went not according to the plan, and hopefully they will keep doing that. The best option, like when a monster eats a monster, and then like Putin, Assad escaped to North Korea, And then something happens in North Korea and the world is liberated from these evil invaders, dictators who are actually very pathetic and very cowardly. So please tell your politicians to stop being afraid. Nobody's afraid of them here in Ukraine. You don't need to. They cannot fight against NATO. They cannot fight against strong countries. Russia is like the largest country in the world, much bigger than the United States. They have fewer population and their economy is pathetic in comparison with the economies of like mid-size EU countries. Keep that in mind, and it keeps collapsing, which is important. Subscribe to see the final collapse of the Kremlin and discuss Putin's final speech somewhere in The Hague. We can even travel to this beautiful city because we have subscribers from there. By the way, I love discovering your locations. Leave in the comments some information where you're from, of course, if you are not a special agent, then be careful. So during this week we had lots of your favorite and my favorite geography lessons. We've traveled to Oryol in Russia, to Bryansk, to Taganrog, to Novosibirsk, because Ukrainian drones targeted military airfields, ammunition depots there, and my favorite, one of my favorite, oil refineries, because they burn well. Russians record lots of demotivating videos with evil language and spread it really quickly, just as fire across Russian social media, persuading the population, no, not everything goes according to the plan. I don't have any expectations for the people of Russia, because the best of them can write a comment like, one day you will liberate us after you liberate Ukraine. So literally they don't have hopes for themselves. And they have this concept that I personally hate. What can I do? I'm a small person. And in Ukraine, every person feels responsible for the country, and that's actually very important. Please keep this attitude about your countries too. So this was also a week when Russian Su-30 got burned in Krasnodar, an epidemic, tankers sinking, Sus burning, my God. Secret biolabs. Anyway, Russia lost control over Syria. Assad had to escape to Moscow. There are lots of memes that I love. I share them on Twitter. I'm still there. You can find the link in the description of this video. Follow me there. And one of my favorite memes, I know it's stupid when a person repeats the memes, describes, but I will do it. It's just like Assad looking at one of the Russian cities, let's say Voronezh, and begging to return back to Syria, because you cannot imagine how desperate and depressing some of these cities are. And instead of spending the remains of Russia's budget on roads and buildings, they spend it on killing innocent Ukrainian civilians, which is insane. But we keep neutralizing war criminals even inside Russia, and during this week another one joined the majority of the Russian army in hell. That was a missile developer, Shatsky, who was found in one of the forests next to Moscow. I hope sometime soon we will find Putin, Shoigu, Gerasimov there. There are lots of forests, lots of swamps around Moscow, and I am sure not many people in reality will be sorry for that. But our task is to keep demilitarizing Russia, to keep defeating the evil, and thus making this world and planet a better place. Because do not expect the Third World War to look like serious nuclear explosions, I don't know, aliens coming from Mars to save us. It is already happening in a very disgusting mafia hybrid war style. And recently I've read some updates from the institution in Helsinki, where they actually count the number of hybrid attacks that Russia did on literally lots of countries in the world, starting from 2022. Let me know, would you like a separate video about Russian hybrid warfare in North America, in Europe, in Asia? I'd be happy to film. Join me on Instagram, X, Threads, Discord and Blue Sky. I'm active everywhere and the links that you need are in the description of this video. Check our merch shop for lots of good items that work well as reminders, conversation starters about Ukraine, smart and beautiful Christmas presents or New Year presents or whatever you celebrate. And thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channel. Thank you for being my friends, friends of Ukraine. United we stand. Slava Ukraini!